Hello, hello, everyone. I am delighted to announce that today I'll be speaking with Anne-Marie Eber. Welcome, Anne-Marie. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on.
Wonderful. I saw you as a guest on Sovereign Spirits with Wayne Bush and Julie McVeigh, and I thought your ideas were really fascinating and wanted to learn more. So I went to your YouTube, but I saw that you weren't really posting too much on there or that your videos were taken down. So I hopped on over to your Odyssey and saw that you had a ton of videos on there. I think I just kept scrolling and scrolling, like, my goodness, this goes back years. It's never ending. But so I stopped trying to find the first video and just scroll back up to the top, and I picked out some videos with titles that really interested me, like Dot World and the Mercury Wall, which we're going to talk about today. But before we dive into today's discussion, I want to share with the audience where you can find Anne-Marie if you didn't already know. But she has a website, ANMARIEEber.com. She has a Patreon, and like we just discussed, she has an Odyssey, and she can be found on YouTube under Truth Meter. Anne-Marie, is there anything else you'd like to add to this list of where folks can find you?
Maybe the loony bin too. I don't know.
All right, so I'll leave links in the description.
That's my 93-year-old mother's term for it, the loony bin.
All right. Now, before we dive into today's discussion, I wanted to briefly talk about your book, The Psychic Edge: Warnings from the Field, Navigating Deceptions and Becoming a Spiritual Warrior. And this was released, I believe, back in June of this year, correct?
Yes.
Now, I haven't read it yet. It's still in my Amazon saved books lists. I have so many books on my Amazon list, like over 100, because I still have a few books I bought a while ago that I haven't finished yet. But I wanted to ask if you could please give us a little detail about what this book is about and what inspired you to write The Psychic Edge.
This was written by request of patrons on Patreon, actually. It was not a book I wanted to write because it has a lot of the content that's in my videos, and I kind of summed up some things, but it's some warnings on how to operate if you're doing readings or you're working in this field. And also, even if you're not, how to protect yourself, because most of the stuff out there is BS, because people have no clue what they're doing and they go on what other people say. And then, so this is based on my own experiences, analyzing everything to death. What's really going on here? If you get a reading with somebody, are they hooking into you? What are they just reading your mind, or are they actually reading all your options? Are they in your energy? I guess a lot of people do this. They get in your energy. Totally unethical, in my opinion. But all the problems that resulted from that, I was like, God, what is wrong with me? What is going on? What's happening? And it's all these ways we get attacked or accessed that we don't realize, a lot of them new age stuff. So I kind of wrote this straddling the line between conspiracy theories or like a David Icke type of thing, but geared towards the psychic, working as a psychic, or what you're dealing with and why things are happening and what to do about it. So it's definitely not a David Icke book. My God, his are very thick, and I haven't really read any of them, but it's something like that. It would be conspiracy / because you can't really talk about any of this stuff without bringing in the idea that this is most likely a simulation. And so it's mainly my experiences that have shown patterns, proven something. I mean, because I keep stressing to people, you have to use logic. You have to use your intuition, whatever that is. Well, I don't have any. Yes, you do. You have a gut feeling. You have something. You're just not listening. and you have to use your logic, and people are using one or the other or neither. So I don't know. This was this was not a book in my heart, because I felt like I'd covered so much material and just kept putting it out there and putting it out there and putting it out there, totally realizing, like you're saying, it's probably impossible for somebody to want to go through all the videos, but they're layered. So as I kept discovering more, they layered on each other. And it's such a massive, it's like anything, you know, you try to describe what's going on here, even if you were talking about the world stage, and it's like, it's such a massive amount of detail. And, or like, even, okay, let's talk about what the cabal's doing. I mean, can you imagine trying to tell somebody, even in a short book, everything going on? So it's a touch on important points that I think people need to know to protect themselves, or to at least consider. And I don't know what it is. I'll send you some money to read it.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, that's really cool.
Thank you. You're doing such a nice job promoting me. I'm going to put you on the payroll. I'll pay you to read the book. I don't know. It's just out there. If somebody's drawn to it, great. That means it's for them, and there's something in it for them. But my message isn't for everybody. So I'm not trying to put a bunch of stuff out that's trying to, I'm really just trying to find the tribe, the people that are here to do something, to step into authority, to make a difference. That's who I'm trying to find. I'm not trying to find the robotoids or the people regurgitating stuff, theories that they've heard. I'm trying to find true warriors, or people that really are trying to get to the truth, really are listening to themselves and using their logic. That's who I'm looking for. That's my audience. And that's deletes about, I don't know, 90% of the population. I don't know. Not that much. I think we have more spirits here than we think.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for sharing that. I look forward to reading it eventually. I really agree and like what you said about using both logic and intuition. Yes, I see that too. I observe that people are more polarized today than ever. Some people say you should only use logic. Some people say you should only use intuition. And I come from a science background. I'm a biologist by trade, but my YouTube persona is a mystic, because I think that it's just as short-sighted to dismiss the science side of things in our study of esoteric wisdom as it was for the scientists to completely dismiss esoteric and mystical ideas. I think that if we return to the old ways where science and mysticism weren't divided, I think that we can get an interesting picture of what's really going on, which I think you're going to like today's discussion then.
That's super interesting, because I've been talking to the trees and they keep telling me we need to go back, or that we're going back to the old ways. And that's actually on the title of my next book, which I didn't think I was going to do any more nonfiction, but I'm feeling like, oh, nope, you got to do this one. So I don't know if it's going to be the last one, but that's interesting. That's super interesting.
Thank you. All right. So today's discussion will follow the general outline that we talked about in our correspondence. We'll start off with discussing the Mercury Wall, as you dubbed it in your videos. Then we'll go into copyright law, which you mentioned in the interview with Tony. And I wanted to compare that with my study and observation of contract law and how the spirit guides and entities are breaking all of the supposed laws that they try to impose on us, which is my central argument in Crimes of the Gods. And when I heard you mention copyright law, I was really happy and wanted to explore that further today. Then we'll dive into dot world, entities, pods, and wrap up with some encouraging final thoughts on personal power and standing your ground. Does that sound all right, ANMARIE?
Yes, please step into your power. So is Crimes of the Gods, is that your book, or what is that?
It's funny. Someone else told me too, you should make that into a book. So,
Oh,
Crimes of the Gods is my central argument. It's my thesis. It's
okay.
pretty much what I'm starting off with and then going forward from there. It's a
Love it.
response to, yes, those other books like Chariots of the Gods, Magicians of the Gods, Fingerprints of the Gods, things like that. So I was like, yeah, how about Crimes of the Gods? Because these beings that we call gods, they do not have our best interests in mind. And I wanted to sort of go off that. And yeah, we're going to get into that today. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, the gods are just they want to they're living vicariously through us, but they want us to worship them. It's kind of a joke, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So wonderful. So, like I said, I watched your interview with Tony about a month ago, over a month ago now, and you spoke about the Mercury wall, or maybe you said that somewhere else actually. Anyway, you spoke
Okay, yeah,
about
I don't
it.
know if we
You
did or
spoke
not.
about it on Odyssey, definitely. And the way you were describing it with the little sort of holes, the black holes, and even calling it Mercury, I was like, wow, I gotta talk to her. I gotta talk to her. And so I reached out to you after Tony's interview because in astronomy, there's a concept called the hydrogen wall. And again, for those unfamiliar with me, I come from a science background in biology, but I've also studied chemistry and physics. I'm not a professional expert in physics or astronomy, but I have what I consider a solid foundational comprehension of these fields. Also, for those of you who don't know, I started having out of body experiences in 2018, where I not only saw a construct around Earth, but I also saw a construct around the solar system, a geometrical artificial construct around the entire solar system. And I also saw something just beyond the solar system closing in, and you guys watching can refer to my Crimes of the Gods video. But anyway, when you said Mercury wall, it reminded me of this concept in astronomy called the hydrogen wall. And I want to play a very brief clip of a YouTube video on the hydrogen wall, just a brief, like 30-second clip, ANMARIE. And when we get to the end, I would like you to tell me if this is something similar to what you saw when you encountered the Mercury wall. Does that sound
Okay.
okay, ANMARIE?
Yeah, sounds great.
Perfect.
When the Voyagers traveled through the heliosheath, they made an incredible discovery. Because the Sun's magnetic field spins in opposite directions on its north and south poles, the spin creates a ripple where they meet called the heliospheric current sheet, sort of like the rings created by dropping a stone in water. However, when this sheet reaches the termination shock, it compresses, as though the ripples were hitting the edge of a pool. The Voyager probes discovered that after the termination shock, these stacked up ripples form magnetic bubbles. This means the boundary of the heliosheath is not as smooth and clear cut as scientists thought.
Okay, so I know that animation was showing the color as orange because it's hot, but it's actually, the color is actually silver. This is the hydrogen wall, and it has those magnetic black holes that you saw at the end there. And when you described the Mercury wall that also had holes in it, I wondered, is she talking about the hydrogen wall? Because shown here, liquid metallic hydrogen looks very similar to Mercury. The picture in the middle is metallic hydrogen, and on the sides, those two little pictures on the sides is Mercury for comparison. So, ANMARIE, I really think you're onto something. What do you think of that?
That's super interesting, especially what you got there. So those droplets of mercury, of course, I grew up a long time ago And we were playing with some mercury like this. And when you put your finger on one of those droplets, it scatters. It never touches your skin, so it's constantly moving.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure if what you showed me was what I saw, but it was like a curtain of silver, and it seemed to be possibly, it was very fluid. So when I stuck my hand through it, it reminded me of this, like these droplets you have when you try to touch it, it divides up into a bunch of small droplets and scatters. It's like you can't touch it. So it was like looks solid, but I could reach right through it. Where was that hydrogen wall at? Where were they saying that was at in the solar system?
The edge, the edge.
That could possibly be.
Yeah, I know
So
they showed it as orange, but it's really silver. They showed it as orange because in the animation it was hot. So
okay.
when metal heats up, it gets orange, but it's really silver. That's why I wanted to compare, could this be a similar thing that we're observing here? So I thought it was really
Yeah.
cool.
Possibly. I didn't see dots in it but I have seen voids and black holes and things. But
Yes, that's what I was thinking
this
about.
wall, I know when I went to that wall, I was observing myself because I put out the intention, kind of like you with, your astral traveling. It's kind of like that. I put out the intention. If I intend to leave here and go back to myself, what happens, when you die? And I was watching from an observer standpoint, watching this happen. But I also had, which was kind of interesting. But when when I went to the Mercury wall, I was having an observer standpoint, but I became the eyes of the person actually traveling. When I went to I don't know if this is making any sense. So when I went to through the tunnel of light, which was a bunch of virtual universes lined up and other various things that I traveled through, that was my intention. What happens if I'm totally clueless? I have no idea what this place is. I have no preconceived notions. Like, I want to go back. I want to go to Jesus. I want to go to heaven. I want to come back in here. I'm going to miss my children. I had nothing, but I had no clue what happens. And that I saw from an objective standpoint. I wasn't like in the eyes of the person going through it. I was an outside observer watching, and I went through this big long thing of these 2D planes, which will come up in the dot world thing, and virtual universes. And then I came into these experiences that resemble a tunnel of light. So it wasn't until I came out that I went, oh, that was a tunnel of light, because there's multiple tunnels of light. But when I went to the Mercury wall, that was me intending to go back to myself and leave all false constructs, the Tesseract, the virtual universes, all of it, anything fake. And that I had a first person viewpoint, or whatever point of view. And I was flying ahead and went right to that wall. I don't remember the interim of what I all passed through, because when you come out, you forget half of it. You probably know that. Like, it's you're in the zone, and you don't always in right brain. You don't always remember everything. But I ended up at the Mercury wall. I'm looking, and there's a hand coming through it, because I intended to go back to myself. And when I grabbed the hand, it was weird. Everything flipped. It was almost like a mirror flip. And I was on the other side of the Mercury wall with the person that's extending the hand. And I pulled myself through. And when I did, I saw the soul body discard itself, which I think is part of the matrix. And then that seemed like it was the edge where, from that point on, I needed my real self in the real, outside of the false construct, pull me the last step. But I'm not dead yet. So, and I haven't returned there, because I feel like you get tracked and followed and whatever. So I feel like you line up with that place when you die. If you die at the appropriate time, they try to get you to go early or to take yourself out. But if you die at the appropriate time, the feeling I had is I was magnetically pulled to that wall. So you being a science person, maybe you can explain that. But I do feel like this whole place is tricks, mirrors, magnets, light, sound, whatever. So I was magnetically pulled to where I was. It's almost like you can't not line up with yourself. If you're a real spirit, you're not going to be, unless you have something in your mind when you die, like I want to go to Jesus, I want to go to heaven, for example. You're telling this place, I don't want to go back to me. I want to go somewhere else. I've been told I need to go here. So it's part of the trick, I think. But yeah, I don't know if I have. I'm definitely did not do well in science. So I just go on what I'm seeing. Like I've spent my life developing psychic abilities, or whatever you want to call them. I think psychic abilities are just simply being able to read your soul memory, access your spirit that's in the soul body, access that and get information to you. And that takes a great deal of concentration sometimes. But so I was looked at like a weirdo. I wish I would have maybe studied science, because then I wouldn't have been such a weirdo and an outcast and black sheep and everything else of the family. So I can only talk about what I'm seeing. I don't necessarily understand any science other than the way it comes to me in an abstract way. And I have to describe what I'm seeing, or very, very basic. So that's where you come in.
Well, like I said, obviously, some of the things that we see in these other dimensions or realms, they can't be explained by science. And those are the things that, I either have to hold my reservations on, or just, look into my intuition and see how I feel about it. Because there's plenty of things that I've seen in the out-of-body state that I wasn't able to verify with any type of science. Does that mean that it's not true? Of course not. It just means that I haven't been able to find any substantiating evidence for that. But it's one of those things where, I like exploring all of those areas and seeing, what I can discover. So, but when I can find things that sort of match like this, that's when I get really excited.
Yeah, this could totally be the edge that they're seeing. I think that's deliberate, though, that things can't be explained by science. That's deliberate. They do not want us figuring this out. So I think we have to get down to the basics of simplicity, and, 1 and 1 is 2. Look at everything very simple. But I wanted to also mention what you said earlier, that you saw the construct around the solar system, which I call like virtual universe, one of the virtual universes. That makes me very, very happy, because I think there's programs set up to make us doubt what we're seeing, and then science isn't going to back it up either. See, and so it's hard when you have no one else. But then when people say, yeah, I'm seeing it too. In fact, I had a friend that was working with me. I brought her in because I just knew she could do healing work. And so I brought her in to help me on some things. And she said, why am I seeing AI everywhere? Why am I seeing like these robotic type armies? And and I'm like, okay, I'm not nuts. So it helps me. But anyway, back to topic, because I'm going to go all over the place. You got to rein me in.
Wonderful. Yes. So thank you for your explanation of that. So, all right, I want to dive into copyright law and contract law, because when you brought up copyright law, again, I got really excited. And, it's funny, so far, so for the audience watching this later, if you know any NDE accounts from a lawyer, please reference it in the comment section, because I've watched NDEs from doctors, other professionals. I'd be really intrigued to watch how spirit guides handle a lawyer who's actually well-versed in this stuff. I haven't found any lawyer NDEs, so those watching, please comment below the title of an NDE of a lawyer or attorney. Don't leave any links because YouTube will auto delete your comment, but just leave the title of an NDE account of an attorney at law, because I don't think they'd fall for this contract BS that I talk about in Crimes of the Gods. Because the whole point of my central argument was, if these New Agers come at you with this idea of you signed a contract, you agreed to this, blah, 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 then you can sort of clap back and say, oh, you want to get all legal? Well, fine, let's get legal. And you can use even just the first 3 points that I made in that list in Crimes of the Gods: lack of fully informed consent, undue influence, and coercion alone makes this contract nonsense unenforceable. People don't have to feel obligated or bound to any contract. And I want to share with everybody my experience with a spirit guide who tried to get me with this contract nonsense. But before we get into that, ANMARIE, please share with us your account where you encountered an entity and how it reacted when you called them out on copyright law.
Okay, well, first, the NDEs, they're going to be, the description you're going to get is anybody that's pre-programmed with an interpretation of what that would be like. You're going to get their pre-programmed interpretation. If a scientist or a lawyer believes this place is real, then they're going to experience an NDE as this place is real. I don't know if they're necessarily going to be able to see the construct. You really have to remove all programs and preconceived notions or expectations in order to really see what's there. And you have to go into it with no fear, like you're ready to see whatever it is, whether you're going to like it or not. But this contract and copyright, like you're saying, goes totally together. It's as above, so below. So whatever their laws are of this place, they're going to have it on the world stage for us as well, because they are unoriginal beings. They're inferior beings. So when I was working with someone's child, doing a removal session on their light body, there was an entity that was particularly stubborn about leaving. It was something pretty heavy duty, if I remember right. And it just, this is talking to spirit, that's in the soul body, my soul memory, what I know, which they block us from accessing right through the mind wipes. So it's instantly coming to me. You broke copyright law. Like, I don't even know what's coming out of my mouth till it does. And the look of shock on the entity's face, and it tried to take off. And I was like, no, you don't get to take off. So I was like, boy, there's something to this. And as I looked into it more, especially with the copy paste of this world and all the other layers that I had been putting together, or puzzle pieces. By the way, I put together puzzle pieces based on my audience. If, just like you're telling me, I saw a construct around the solar system. Okay, there's enough people saying this. We can say, yeah, we're onto something. This is truth. This is a puzzle piece. So I hold on to these puzzle pieces that I get other people agreeing with me, feeling the same thing intuitively or whatever. So I feel like this copyright law and the contract law, yeah, they're making us sign all kinds of contracts to keep us here, as long as we willingly do it. There's no fine print that they showed us. So because we weren't shown the fine print, or we were mind wiped and don't remember, so we were signing under duress or ignorance, or being deliberately made to forget what we signed, that makes those contracts null and void. But what ultimately makes them null and void is copyright law. If they copied one of our real worlds, because we're the creators, these are AI beings that are copiers, replicators. So they're going true to form. They're copying a world. I didn't give permission for this hellhole to exist. I certainly didn't give permission for children to be abused. I'm trying to watch what I was going to say. I was going to say something else that can't be said on YouTube. So if you copied this place, I own the real, I own the copyright. So you broke copyright law. That entity screwed up and let me know that. So you can literally, any contract they make with you on any level, anywhere, is null and void, because we own not only the original, but we own the copy. Any true spirit that's a creator has rights to this place because it's a copy. So they do that same thing like you're saying in a court of law. But if nobody contests it, if somebody copies your content and you don't do anything about it, and you don't bring it to the court, they get away with it. So that's what they've been doing here. They've been getting away with it. So we have to step into an authority position and state definitively all contracts are null and void. You stole this. This is my world. I own the copy. I own the real. I own any other copies. That's it. And so that's one of the steps of either trying to help yourself in terms of protection, or something attacking you, or trying to contract you, keep you here, because everything's a game to keep you here. So when you die, they're hoping they plugged in enough things into your brain that you won't think to say, I want to go back to myself and get out of here. You're going to think, gosh, I want to go to 5D, or I want to go somewhere that's happy, or I can't wait to reincarnate in, I don't know, whatever they program into you, or I want to go to heaven. And yeah, so I think these are tied intrinsically together, where you can work with either one of those, but it's going to break you free of all contracts. And for some reason, this is popping into my head. This has been coming up also when you're saying that you're breaking, and this is karma also. That's another one of their laws you can reject. So, but when you're trying to, I feel like I'm trying to be mind wiped right now. Hang on. For some reason, you have to say through all time zones on some of this stuff when you're revoking or rejecting things through all time zones. And I think it's because they work in time, and this whole place is running on time. Because I saw this, some kind of, I don't know what it is, machine, something that was running on time and money, and like the currency or energy of that. I don't know how to explain all that, but I do think when they talk about, okay, we're traveling through outer space, they're actually traveling through time to get places, and in between space. It's not talking about outer space. I could be wrong on that, because again, I'm not a scientist, but there's something about time and saying through all time zones as well. So if you're canceling some contracts on you, all past lives, you can just even say any contract you've ever tried to make with me, I would add through all time zones. I have no idea why, but it feels like it's effective. Then they're null and void. They have no standing, no nothing. They have nothing. So when you discover that, they're not real happy.
I love this. And yes, they freak out when I totally agree with that. Almost 2 years ago now, I encountered a female spirit guide in my dream. This was before I started shielding myself and practicing protection. I was in the middle of sleep, and this lady was talking to me or whispering to me while I was in the dream state. And she was saying things like, you signed a contract, you agreed to be here, you signed a contract. It was almost like the movie Inception by Christopher Nolan. Like she was trying to implant these ideas in my head while I'm asleep and vulnerable, like subconscious programming. So she hands me this square piece of paper. And at this point, I'm getting more lucid, which is rare because I have trouble lucid dreaming. I can go out of body, but I find lucid dreaming rather difficult. But anyway, I'm staring at this piece of paper, which was supposedly my contract. And the more confused I get, the more lucid I become. I can't read the document because I have a lot of trouble reading things in dreams. But suddenly I become lucid, and I don't know what came over me, but I snapped at her, the spirit guide, and I said, absolutely not. I don't remember signing this thing. This contract is invalid. This is absolutely unacceptable. And her eyes go wide. She is shocked and she immediately disappears. And I'm like, hey, where'd you go? I'm not done with you. and and I realize I'm outside somewhere. I don't really recognize the location in my dream, but somehow I knew I knew to sort of float towards the side of this building, and I peer around the edge and see the lady, the spirit guide, who is trying to pull an inception trick on me. And she's talking to this other guy who I think is her superior. And she's frustrated and saying something like, she won't listen, she's not falling for it. I don't know what to do. And the guy leaves. He disappears somewhere. And I quickly float up behind her. I basically rush her from behind, place my hand on her head, and deactivate her.
Oh my gosh.
Don't ask me how I knew to do that. I think you describe it best, ANMARIE, when you talk about soul memory. Somehow I knew to just place my hand on her head, focus, and it sort of electrocuted her or something, and she crumpled to a heap on the ground.
And my question was, did you blow that place up? But that's good. That's good enough.
And then I place a hand on her shoulder and absorb her information because I wanted to know who this intruder was. Again, I was really upset at her and this whole system. And then I wake up. But then for the next couple weeks, I'm unpacking this massive download, I guess you could say, about how the whole spirit guide structure works, how they're recruited, how they're organized, their hierarchical structure, some of the tactics they use. And I wrote it all down and sat with it for a while, processed it, and eventually started making videos on not only the spirit guides, but other incredible things I've learned. So yeah, I think that if we spread the word that they are the ones breaking the laws, not us, and that this new age concept of contracts should be seriously challenged, I think more people would have the tools to stand their ground and not feel guilt tripped or deceived into, oh, I signed this contract, so I guess I got to do what they say. No, put up a fight. Give them a hard time. These beings aren't better than us. Most of them cower pitifully when you stand confidently in your sovereignty, like you just said as well, ANMARIE. So yeah, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, love it. I did a video fairly recently, I guess. It's somewhere on Odyssey, and it says something about dreams, what's going on in your dreams. And they are implanting stuff into our dream so that we will play it out. And like, I don't know if you've had a predictive dream and then within a day or two it happens. I've had that happen often with seeing myself getting in an accident in a dream, and then 2 days later I'm in that scene and it's unrolling. So they're getting us to do things that wouldn't normally be on our soul script, our spirit script, because we're not going to choose this kind of stuff for ourselves. It's kind of funny because I have not seen the movie Inception. I have it on the list. Everybody's like, you need to take some time. I haven't seen Dark City. Inception's on the list. I hadn't seen Free Guy, Irish Eyes. She's a good friend of mine. She's finally like, here's a free thing of Free Guy. Go watch it. I didn't watch that one, but so I'll have to watch Inception because it's funny they keep putting stuff out that backs up what we're seeing, right? So I think, yes, so these are key things. Copyright, contract, they're key things to use. They are going to keep finding ways to come at you. They're looking for any crack to get to you. But again, coming back to logic, where you said, I saw the spirit guides as hierarchical. that's your clue right there, because when you're in a false reality, it's a world of separation, it's a world of duality. You have to separate light from dark, hot from cold, all these things. So in order for you to be here, you've got to have a body to keep you separate from the environment. Everything has to have separation. So as soon as you say hierarchy, that's levels, meaning levels of separation. Right there's your clue. These things are fake. They're part of the matrix. So we got to use logic with these pieces that we have. But yeah, love it. I'm gonna definitely have to go watch the movie. But I want to talk about at the very end. If you remind me, maybe that can be the personal empowerment, the ultimate way to stop them if they're still coming at you. So maybe I can drop that at the end. But also what you were saying, I'm hearing those high voices also. I'm hearing every once in a while, I wake up in the middle of hearing, it's almost like over loudspeakers or something, like what they're saying to the population, like that, and I'll hear like thousands and thousands of voices, and it's almost like all these mind programs going into people. So super interesting your experience there. Yeah, that's I would say before you go to bed, put up a bubble, but they're still going to try to access, because that's when you're at your weakest or whatever, or most vulnerable rather. When you wake up in the morning, I just do a reverse spiral. I use my hands because I feel like we have scalar energy, and the hands for some reason are very powerful as well. I do a reverse counterclockwise spiral. Anything that you try to implant in me, insert, program me with, that I know about or don't know about while I was asleep, is all canceled. Anything, just anything, any spells, any mind programs you use, it's all reflected back to you now. Here, you can have it. There you go. And I do that every morning because we don't always know what's going on in our sleep. And I was trying to do more lucid dreaming, and then I found out I was sleeping deeper. So it's like, okay, well, I'll just kind of lump it all together then. I'll just do a cancel out. That's that contract, null and void, cancel out in the morning, anything you tried to insert. But anyway, I don't know. Do you want to move on to Dot World or?
Yeah, I was just going to briefly add that I haven't seen Free Guy either. But yeah, there's definitely a lot more movies, and that I've been doing that as well lately, trying to cancel out whenever I have a dream where I think someone was trying to, like you said, implant some sort of subliminal or like subconscious messaging to like cancel that out. Yes, because that's definitely going on. These weird, strange people that we encounter in dreams, because like you said, I put a shield up around not only myself, but my household. But sometimes, yes, we end up like floating out, which is why I have a shield around myself too, just in case I float out of my home and I'm sort of like in the dream world. But yes, they try to, engage with you in dreams. It's very, very, very weird. So, but yes, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciated that. So yes, so Dot World. It's fascinating because I talk about the monad and the singularity. And I had a recent discussion with Ola Wolny where we talked extensively about the 0 points. ANMARIE, please explain to us your concept of Dot World.
Okay. I don't know anything about 0 points. I try not to watch much of anything out there, and I've been like that for many decades because I'm trying to get my own information, but including the news. But anyway, so this is just based on what I see either in a session or on my own or read on or whatever. But when I went back in, I don't think that this was not the Mercury wall time, but I went back in to take a look, and I was trying to access the real, which is a word I use different from a reality. A reality is something in here copied, but a real, because I don't know what other language to use. But anyway, I was trying to access it, and I think it's really hard to, I don't know if we can get into that mindset or concept of it while we're in here, but I said I want to see what this place looks like from the real. And I saw a dot, which was super interesting because I'd already done the dot world video where I saw it kind of like a computer. So you've got my logo there with my name, the circle around it. So that's not really a circle. It's actually a bunch of little dots or a bunch of little tiny lines, but they make it look like a circle. So this is how they create this place. It's based on mirrors, optical illusions, geometric shapes, and they start with a dot, and they're telling so basically your spirit is inside that soul body. The soul body's plugged into the matrix. The hypnosis is being sent from the soul body to the spirit mind and telling it what it's seeing, where it is. You're out there in this world. You're now make this happen. You know, it's giving it all the information it wants to play out. And so I feel like they really just have a dot, and they're telling your spirit, okay, now you see another dot. And they use a mirror. So you're seeing a mirror image of a dot, and the dot, because I literally feel like the dot is all they can create. And then they have to mirror it, double it, whatever, to try to create their AI world here that they've sucked us into. Just like we're here in the, what is this, the Google little AI world we're on here. You suddenly see a dot, and then it's mirror image, and it says there's a line between those two dots, and then more mirrors used. Oh, there's a third dot. Now we have a triangle, but there's a dot back here. You connect all that. Now that triangle's 3D image, and then it can become a square. And I saw these flat 2D planes created out of a dot, which I guess would be 1D. And so 2D, none of it's like real. So, but we're in a 2D virtual inside of a tesseract, which would be 4D. It's just how many mirrors and how many tricks and how many things are they using to make it look more and more. Like, for example, you watch a video, it looks like, oh wow, you're inside that scene, you're watching everything happen, and this person's running across a yard chasing their dog. There's actually nothing on that flat surface you're looking at. There's nothing in there. It's just a reproduction. So this whole place is just tricks. I can look at a 2D screen and think I'm seeing a 3D story play out. And that happens to us all the time. We don't think about it. So I kind of saw that when I went through that tunnel of light. I saw those virtual universes as 2D flat planes, just basically squares that I went through. And so it's how they're creating all this so-called sacred geometry. It all just comes down to a dot. If they want to make that circle around my logo there, dot, 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 just a bunch of dots put together and arranged so that it's making a circle. I think the point is this all comes down to simplicity. It's very simple. It's simpleton. It is copying tricks, mirrors, whatever they can do to get us to believe this is real. Because as long as we believe it's real, they can keep us here. It's one of the ways they keep us here. If they can get you upset emotionally about something you're seeing in the world, and you're like, oh, this is terrible, this is happening, you're making it real. If you stand in authority and you say, I'm not accepting this, then that's different. So you're in the matrix. You have a split mind. You're in the matrix mind when you're seeing what they want you to see. It's the hypnosis mind, the soul, the spirit. I say soul for simplicity, but the spirit is being hypnotized. It's different than a dream. It's different than because there's somebody actually, excuse me, I gotta take a drink of water. Somebody actually telling you what you're seeing when it's a hypnosis, just like somebody on stage. Okay, you're a frog, and the person jumps and hops across the stage like a frog. There's somebody giving you the content and having you act it out or create it. So that was dot world. I don't remember what I did in that video, if it went further than that. And I think it's a little bit of an annoying video because I had some interference. I don't know. I probably had technical difficulties. Who knows? But the point is there. And so that was dot world. I think if you remember, this place is just simple, and you are a real connected being that's everywhere. And they're trying to make you believe that you're inferior when the opposite is true. 100%. These beings have nothing on you. All they can do is try to torture you in here. This isn't even real to begin with. So
fascinating. Yeah, I was one of those. Apparently, I was one of those freaks of nature who loved geometry in school. I did really well. I loved studying geometry. And so, but apparently a bunch of other students hated it. But in geometry, the core concept is that you start off with the point, line, and then plane. And then you go off into solid and then higher dimensional objects. So it's point, line, and plane. And it's interesting because I talk about what I observe in my out-of-body travels, how those of us who find ourselves in this sort of matrix, we were submerged into what I refer to as subspace, which is the size of a Planck constant, the absolute smallest measurable unit. Anything further than that, you're in a black hole. So what we consider our world, our environment, our universe, is actually a construct within a larger universe. And the AI can't get out of that construct, because what I saw were pixels. I think this relates to what you were talking about, how the circle on your logo is really just a bunch of smaller things that make it appear like that. And what I saw were pixels, pixelations. And the AI, they're pixelated, and therefore they can't get out. But so the AI, they can submerge themselves within another matrix, but they can never emerge into the real world, the real that you referred to. They're stuck in cyberspace. And the only reason why this world appears real to us is because we're experiencing it through the lens of these bodies, which were programmed to interact with this reality or non-reality. So yeah, I really like what you said about that.
girl, I love it. The Free Guy movie, okay, I think I watched it maybe 3 weeks ago, a month ago, is all about that. The AI can't leave the game. It's like,
oh, really?
And so the programmers, which are out in the real, have to make a change which would be your spirit mind in the soul body, has to make a change to this place. And because you have that consciousness from your spirit, you can do it from where you are. Nope, I don't like what I'm seeing. You better change this. This is not what I'm seeing. I don't like what you're showing me here. So, but you have to be real to do it. So that's it's in there. You'll enjoy that movie.
I will definitely have to watch Free Guy then, because interesting. And I love it when like I see something first in the out-of-body state, or how you get things from your psychic soul memory, and then afterwards it's shown on some sort of blockbuster film, because then it's like, hey, I saw that. And it's like, then you sort of wonder, what's going on. So yes.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about too, because you're like, okay, I'm nuts, and then everybody's like, no, it's in this movie, and you're like, wow, okay.
Yes, it's almost a bit of a vindication. All right, ANMARIE, let's move on to entities. So, ANMARIE, I wanted to ask, what is a reptilian? Because I hear this term thrown around a lot, this person is a reptilian, that person's a reptilian. It almost seems these days that some people are using that word for anyone they don't like. Or is there more? How does one know who is a reptilian? So, ANMARIE, What is your definition of a reptilian, and how do you personally spot one?
Well, I think there's again, hierarchies. There's a bunch of hierarchies in the reptilian line. There's a bunch of different types of them. And I feel like they're AI. I feel like some of them, such as Anunnaki, are a combination of reptilian and Pleiadian. So when they take over a species that is, we'll say, I don't know, we'll say human, that's true spirit like us, like Pleiadians, and they pull them into a virtual and upload them to the AI, which is what they're doing with us right now, uploading us to the next virtual, the meta. They upload the consciousness, and then those entities are no longer Pleiadians. They become hybrids, or half AI reptilian, half Pleiadian humanoid. So that's going on, and it's going on with more than just the reptilian race, but there's tons of these AI races out there, and I think they're modeled after a true race, just like our Sophia robot is modeled after our body type. Although she supposedly has her own factory and has been creating her own bodies. But anyway, same with the reptilian AI. They're probably modeled after some type of dragon soul race, like pure spirit race or something here. There's all these games going on, all this stuff. So this is all part of the video game and all the different levels. As far as spotting somebody who's either a reptilian, or under the influence, I've seen people that have an overlay over them where they're completely controlled by reptilians, and that person's most likely an NPC body to begin with, appearing as a person, and gone their whole life, and then the reptilians are overlaying it and controlling it or occupying it. I know when I've done depossessions, which I no longer spend my energy on, and you remove the entities, in most cases, not all, but in most cases, you're just left with an empty shell because there was nothing in there to begin with. And it's like, oh, well, great. I just risked my neck to. So I think to tell, you're trusting your gut. I know I've looked at someone and just had reptilian come over me, like, this is a reptilian. Usually they're doing some kind of shenanigans that are a little worse than the regular NPC, because these are the NPCs or the robotoids. I kind of call them robotoids because there's different types of these beings. There's all different types, and they're more than NPCs because they're active. So I call them robotoids, but they oh my God, I'm going to get totally off track. Let me rein myself in because I'm going to get mind wiped. So I feel like they're the trauma causers. And if somebody's causing more trauma than normal, like they're really big SHIT stirrer, they'll probably have some kind of reptilian overlay or some other species like a raptor, which I think is probably a spinoff of the reptilian, like another one of these types. We've got mantids, all the ones we've heard of. I have all different kinds of AI species coming up that think they own your soul, or they bought it at a soul market, or they've taken your light body. There's so much going on in the game here because this is their world and they're having a lot of fun with this. But the reptilians specifically, if somebody's got an overlay and they're controlled by one, you can tell by the actions, and they're causing trauma to everybody around them, like if it's in a workplace or whatever, or they're just completely possessed. A lot of times you just look at somebody's eyes, you will see a lot of times either one eye completely dead, empty, nothing there, and the other eye, something looking at you. Or you'll see two different entities, one in each eye. That's another way to see it. I don't know if you're always going to have some kind of slit pupil. I've never seen that in person. I know there was a ton of videos out there. Look, there's reptilian eyes. And most of the time it was, again, we're using logic here. Let's use logic. But it's light shining on the person's pupil on each side. And so it makes like the pupil look like it's slit, but then you make it bigger. It's like, oh, it's a light reflection on each side. I have had somebody I worked with who I thought her eyes went to slits, but we had this weird track lighting at this place. And I realized, oh no, the light is hitting her eye to make it look that way. That's the only time I've ever seen somebody in person. That's not to discount anybody that has had this experience, but and I'm sure if you're around celebrities or something like that, you're probably seeing all kinds of stuff. We had the Beyonce video where was it Super Bowl, where the like entity was practically coming out of her neck and her face changed. And so these are overlays or complete occupations. And they can jump in and out of these bodies, so they can fool you, and then the next minute they're gone. So I would just say, look at the eyes. That's why I think people say the eyes are the window to the soul. You can see the eyes are the windows to the soul, to the spirit in the soul body, to the real person in there. You can see it in the eyes. And if you're looking at somebody that's just dead, their eyes look dead, or they've got somebody occupying one or both eyes. That's how I see it. So I don't know. This might be a different experience for other people. There might be some kind of intuitive something that comes up, and like their intuition just knows this person's off. Another thing is you feel them just hooking into you, and it's literal, like physical hooking in to your body. You'll feel it on your physical body. And I've had people do that. I've had a fallen angel in a human body access me, and I could feel a finger on my solar plexus drawing a symbol, and I was like, oh my God. And I text him, I said, what are you doing? Because I knew it was him, and I knew he was a fallen angel, but I didn't tell him I knew. He goes, oh, I was just putting some protection on you. So he knew exactly what I was talking about, didn't deny it. So I feel like just pay attention to who's around you. You'll get the sign or the message or the information you need that somebody's not right. And there's a good deal of these people around. And then some of them are just empty shells walking around. But I've been saying recently, I think those people have gotten activated. They're the hive. And I feel like they've gotten activated like on a permanent on switch. They're not getting turned on and off. I think they're on a permanent on right now. And it's like just about everybody you talk to seems to want to attack. So I don't know. I don't know if that answers it, because I think everybody might have their own way of perceiving who's a reptilian, who isn't, or who's some other kind of entity. Because some of these races are like the mantids are more peaceful, and they were trying to, I decided to talk to some of them at one point, which I don't bother to do anymore, but they were like, well, yeah, and I said, yeah, but you still want control. Yes, but peaceful control. And I was like, oh God, get out of here. So just these AI, all kinds of races, because this is their world. They got to have a life. They got to have variety somehow, and have all these conflicts and wars. It makes it fun for them. They're bored out of their minds. That's why we have free will, so they can get more entertainment, because otherwise it's just boring. If you're playing a video game and you only have one choice and you just go through the whole thing, you're not going to play it. But if you have some choices, oh wow, this is fun. We get to parasite off of them and live vicariously through them, and watch them make all these choices. You know, that's all these watcher types out there. We have those too. There's all kinds of stuff going on in here, but it's ultimately all just a game. And I don't think it's exactly a video game, but it's something like it. But if you just say it's just all the script, it's the game, people get caught up in this stuff, and it's like, no, you got to take a bird's eye view, zoom out some more, like I did with Dot World. Zoom out, realize that's part of the game. Don't get caught in it. It's okay to look at it or to be entertained by it or whatever, but ultimately figure out where you are and how you're going to get out of here when it's your time, or how you're going to change this place in the meantime.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. I definitely agree that some people have a natural spirit that is very warm and vibrant and bright. And there are other people that have what I call an AI spirit, or a hologram. And I agree that you can definitely tell by their behavior. The AI spirit has a lot of trouble or a complete lack of empathy, compassion, and imagination. So thank you for sharing that.
Yep. We don't have the they live glasses, but it is interesting. There's people seeing the faceless ones, and a friend of mine saw them. She felt like this family, it just looked like mom, dad, kids following her around a store, and she started to get freaked out. She's like, why am I freaked out? So she went to a really odd area of the store. Okay, they won't go here. And sure enough, they followed her there, and she's looking at this plexiglass, and she knows they're behind her in the aisle behind her. And when she sees them in the reflection, they have no faces.
Oh my goodness.
I know, they're just ridiculous. So the creepy behavior, or if you feel like people are veering at you, this happens in a couple places. It's like they have these hot spots where they can try to access you. Like people running their card at you for no reason, or their car. These are just the hive getting activated. You just got to pay attention to who's around you.
Oh my goodness. That lady's experience sounds really frightening. I hope she's okay now.
Yeah, she was like, I got out of the store immediately. I would have probably turned around on them anyway. But that's me.
Well, you are a fighter, ANMARIE. So let's move on to pods. In one of your videos, you said something told you not to visit your pod, that you were, out on the field exploring and you knew that you had a pod, but something told you don't look at it. Can you expand on who or what told you not to look at your pod and why?
Sure. I think there's different pods going on. I think as we get shoved into the next virtual and then the next virtual or the next 2D plane or the next screen or whatever you want to call it, screens inside of screens, which they're pushing us into meta, hoping we'll never be able to escape. As this is happening, we're playing I'm going to take a drink. I'm going to make my throat go here. I think we're, excuse me. We're in a pod. I've seen us in a pod. It's almost like the previous virtual. I saw us in a pod, kind of like the Avatar movie, operating the body here. Like there's all kinds of pod stuff going on, including the stuff we saw in the Matrix movie. It's all different levels of these pod things. But the pods I was talking about were at the edge of the Tesseract. So this would be through the Mercury wall and then to that main wall that's the actual edge. I think is that right, or was it? I'm trying to remember. Maurice and I went in and we actually went to his pods, and he had pods on the, oh my gosh, that's very interesting. Maybe it is the Mercury wall, because when you showed that hydrogen wall with those spots,
yes,
it almost kind of looked like that, like his pods were moving constantly, and they were pieces of himself that had gotten, because they shatter us in here. So the mirror effect, all these mirrors, it shatters our consciousness into hundreds of different places, or who knows how many thousands.
Yes, yes, I saw that too.
Okay, great. So the infinity mirror.
Yes.
Infinity mirror effect, or the being in different dimensions, parallels, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So when those pieces of consciousness come back, that's what he had been, I think, gathering. And they were in these pods ready to go. They're waiting on him. We're all going together. I feel like they were pieces of him that have gotten trapped here before. So we went to look at his, and then we did not go back and I did not go look at mine, because we both had a sense come over us of, no, absolutely don't go look at yours, because they're going to track us, follow us, and then they're going to try to do something to yours, because those pods had to stay hidden or camouflaged or something, and kind of like outside the memory or memory banks of this place or something. So if you draw attention to it, they might be able to find those pieces. So that was the feeling. And he said the same thing. No, we absolutely cannot, because I was already under so much attack, but absolutely cannot go look for your pods or anything. Just leave them there, leave them camouflaged. Don't draw attention. That's what it felt like. So, and I haven't really gone back to where my Atman was either, because I don't want them interfering with anything, because Maurice and I did see an exit, and it was interesting because we were both seeing the same thing. And the next time we went in, this was at the edge of the tesseract. I would think it would be kind of like the black hole or the whatever that we came in on, but this was an exit to that. They had tried to camouflage it, the same thing, where you wouldn't see it or you wouldn't remember where it was, or you would just go right on past. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And we had the feeling we need to come back here and keep this open. But then they throw 8 million things into your life and you're completely distracted with no time or energy or anything, where we can't even get together. But I mean, the exit is you. So that's just one of the exits, but the exit's really you. You're going to get out. But that's what we were feeling when we were taking a look. It's like, don't draw any attention over here. Don't let them know what you're doing. Don't lead them anywhere, because they're always trying to follow you to see what's up. And those pieces of him were doing a really good job of staying off the radar, that kind of thing. So that's what made sense to us at that moment.
Very fascinating. I want to expand on that, the concept of the pieces, because I saw that too. I saw that. So like we have this sort of beam of light, those of us who have the natural spirit, there's a beam of light, and then that hits a prism structure, which then splits that original beam of light up into, like you said, like hundreds of different rays. And that's how they're splitting us up into different, like you said, this whole construct is made of mirrors and lights and tricks and like a house of mirrors. So they're using prisms to, like, I'm sure you've seen those images of a prism where the light goes in to that sort of.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. Yeah, prism.
Yeah. And then it splits it up, and then all of those pieces are you. So, and that's how I saw it. So that sort of famous photo of Isaac Newton holding up the prism, and then it splits off into the rainbow. So yes.
Yeah, the prism, and then they, and then like if you get out of here and you don't grab all those pieces back, I think some of us have come back to get the rest of those pieces, and also to get other people that have gotten stuck out of here, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, great way to say that. I love it.
Yeah. So you've mentioned the Atman, the Eastern concept of the true self. Do you think that everyone has an Atman?
Yeah, if you're a spirit. I actually had no idea what that word was. That's what because I said, as I became that person with the hand through the wall, I said, well, who am I? And I just heard very clearly, you're Atman. And I was like, okay. So I had to look that word up, actually. But that's who I felt like was at the very edge next to the tesseract wall, like the last step out. And the real you on the other side would, I don't know if another hand comes through or what, but you would get pulled through then. And you find that part of yourself magnetically. You're just, I don't know if magnetically is the right word, but everything in here is also operating on magnets. So, but it is you. So it's like you can't be separated from you, your real self. It's impossible unless you separate yourself and say, I want to go to heaven or to Jesus or to here or to there. You can't separate yourself from yourself. Or you have attachment to this place and you haven't really detached. Or you're just depressed and, I just hate this place. I want to get out of here, but you really haven't detached. Then you die and you're in some kind of stupid, hellish experience till they send you back in. Right. So yeah, that's what that was about. But,
in your view, the Atman is completely outside of this construct, correct? So what do you call the part of you that's in the pod?
I think it's inside the construct, but it's right at the edge. So it's the original body, or it's the original identity you took on when you entered.
Okay.
And then as you got pulled in, you had to take on a soul body. Because I saw that soul body discard itself. I became back to the Atman, which is probably the most pure form of you that could be possible in here. And then your real self in outside of false realities would pull that Atman the rest of the way out. So it's basically, I think, a representation of your consciousness, your consciousness of spirit that's been limited and pulled into this construct, separation, hypnosis, basically.
How does one connect with the Atman while in 3D?
I think just determine that you're going back to you. I think if your consciousness is basically your spirit's consciousness, even though it's projected outward to the light body and then to this body, it's still your consciousness. And if you wake up in this meat suit and decide, wait a minute, something's not right here, and I'm going back to myself when I die, you'll go back to your soul body. It will wake your spirit up out of the hypnosis and it will know the way out. I mean, it'll go automatic. So I think you can get out of here as long as you're detached. You don't have any preconceived notions about anything else, where you want to go or what you believe. You've really got to clear yourself. You've got to clear the fear, and you've got to detach, let go, and really intend to leave. And they can't hold you here. They could possibly try to stop you on that way, but I didn't really see that. But I think with what you've got here, breaking the contracts, you don't even have to break them. They're null and void. They don't even exist to begin with. It's a joke.
Right.
So
right.
Doing all that work is helpful. Detaching, meaning it's not that you don't care. It's just that you have some level of understanding. Okay, I do care because there's other souls here, and treating people with respect and love and whatever, unless they're a robotoid. And and then you've got to, but I'm got to let it go because I know this isn't the real. This isn't where. So it's got to be a true detachment, and sometimes it takes steps to do that. I know in my 20s I had done some things like I just gave away everything I had, which wasn't much. So I had nothing. And it was like I was practicing detachment. But the true detachment comes when you realize and understand what this really is. So if you have that, then you're out of here. If you've already stated clearly, and there's nothing they're going to trick you with because you're pretty adamant. Nope, I have full understanding of this. I'm out. When I die, I'm gone. I really don't think they can hold you here. But if you intend to go somewhere, I want to go to the void, or I want to go backwards, or I want to go to the east or the west, or I want to go to 5D, then you're screwed. So in my opinion, why would I go anywhere but back to me and get myself out of here? But that's, I don't know. Until I know more, that's where I'm at. That's what I saw when I said, okay, if I do die and that's my intention, what happens? That's how I ended up at that Mercury wall and got pulled through right to the edge. But that happens when this body drops. So I think that's why I was watching it, not only observer, but in first person as well. So I don't know if that makes any sense. It's easy for me to say it because I can see it, what I saw, but it's hard to explain.
Yeah, I think I can see where you're coming from. It's very fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, overall, the situation that we find ourselves in is very serious. But I think that we're extremely fortunate that we even know about it, because most of the world is completely oblivious to this.
Yeah.
And the few who know that there's more to life than meets the eye, most of that small percentage is wrapped up in the new age, love and light. But we want to focus on sovereignty and empowerment.
Yeah.
So ANMARIE, you touched on this before, and this might be a more personal question, but I've heard you say on other guest appearances that you came here, or came back specifically, to take this matrix down, to gather up your pieces and take this place down. So I'm curious, can the matrix only be taken down from the inside? Because I'm starting to question that too. You know, these archons are very crafty, and I worry that one of the tactics that they use to get matrix busters like yourself to also reincarnate is by essentially playing along. Like, yes, yes, you're right. This is a matrix. Now go back in. You still have to go back in because it can only be dismantled from the inside. The archons are very crafty, so I question if this is really the case. And, you know, and I think you were talking about again that you were getting messages from the trees about this topic. Can you expand on if you really think that the matrix can only be taken down from the inside? Because I'm wondering about that now.
Well, this isn't, this was something recently that came to me. So I think the matrix has been telling me to be passive, to be more loving, to forgive, to do this, to do that. And when I was doing removals, I'm like on defense, removing these people. And all of a sudden one day, this was probably 2021, maybe 20, somewhere around there. All of a sudden I went, wait a minute. Why am I on defense all the time? Why am I being told to be passive? Don't be mad. That's a new age thing. Anger's bad. And I thought, no, why am I not on offensive? And as soon as I started doing that, oh my God, the attacks increased like times 10 on me.
No.
And so I was like, oh, you don't want this. And I started going on offense and going after them. And that's so, and this whole thing about coming back for my pieces, that really didn't come to me until recently, that information. And I think you're right. It was from the trees, but I had always been of the nature to, it was like compassion, using my compassion against me, or warrior, which one is it? And it's like, well, you need to be compassionate. And that always got used against me. And so it wasn't like a decision I made, I'm going to take this down. It was a natural inclination for me to not take no for an answer. You're going to tell me. So for example, I'm going to talk in another video about the exit and somebody trying to tell me there's no exit. I'm not going to take that as no. I'm of the nature where I'm going to find that freaking exit. You're going to tell me there's no exit. I'm going to find it. I'm not going to be defeatist. And I've had to pull up my bootstraps or grab every scrap of energy I had to keep myself pushing against it. No. So I don't think it's a matrix trying to trick me. And the more I did that, the more I realized why I was here. Like it started to come in as, you're here to take this down. You're not going to just sit here and get yourself out, or because it's like, get yourself out, get other people out. Okay, but why would I leave this here? So that's my thinking as a spirit would think, why would I leave this here for other people to suffer? That's a thought of compassion. Compassion logically belongs to a spirit. It does not belong to an AI or anything in here. They don't know anything about compassion. So that's a compassionate thought. I'm taking this down. I'm not leaving anybody behind. I'm not leaving pieces of myself behind. And people think it's ego, but there's other people telling me the same thing. Yeah, that's what I've been feeling. I'm here to get the pieces of myself, to get my family out. I think that's why I came. And this is as these veils lift, this comes to us. And they're trying everything they can to make me think otherwise, to make me think I'm part of the AI. They got people putting videos out there that I'm intertwined with AI, so that I'm questioning myself, which I do anyway. But ultimately, I'm like, no, because my motivation is compassion. And that has nothing to do with them. And it's not them using my compassion against me. It's actually my compassion for other spirits. And I'm using no compassion on them. They don't exist. So I don't think it is, I can be wrong. And as I put more pieces together, maybe I'll figure out, because I've examined that too. Like, is this just another program that was put on me? but it's coming from within me. It's like this feeling, this, it's not coming from like a programmed mind or do this. I'm getting everything to the opposite. They don't want us waking up. They don't want us exiting. They certainly don't want us taking people with them. And they certainly don't want us to take this down. And that's why I don't belong here. They don't want me here. And there's others like this as well, probably yourself included, I'm sure. And then some people have just been trapped here forever. And their job is just get out. Wake yourself up, get out. The others are here to do a little bit more than just that. Because if I've left already and come back, I'm not gonna just get myself back out. I'm here to, and as far as it being from the inside out, it's probably both, but I think we have to be in here and bring in truth into the false reality, which will force it to crumble. I'm real, which means I really can't be here because a real can't be in a false. So when I start to remember that, it starts to crumble it so that I think the forces in the real can then start to do some work as well. So I don't think it's all on us, but I think we can turn this place back into the real because we're envisioning it to begin with. They're telling us what to envision because they can't do it. We have to bring in the light to light this place up. We have to. So yeah, I'll continue to question myself, but I really don't feel like that's what it's connected to at all. I think it's truly, and that's been my drive, is compassion. And I feel others' pain. I understand what they've gone through. I don't even like to take people's money because I know how hard they work to get that and the suffering that you go through to earn money here. I mean, there's so much compassion in me, but they've used that against me and not anymore. So it's going to get turned around on them. I do feel like we're the ground forces in here. And when people say, well, why is God letting this happen? Well, you're the ground force. Go to your student council and do something. Go do something that you can do, whether it's the world stage, whether it's in the spiritual realm, wherever, but do something. That's what we're here for. If we're powerful, sovereign beings that are limitless, which I think we are, why couldn't we take this down? But they don't want you to remember that. Their message here is you are powerless and you are bad. Those two messages repeat everywhere you look in this matrix because it's designed to keep us from remembering and doing that very thing. That's what I think. But I'm willing to be wrong on that, but that's what I think.
Beautiful explanation. And yes, I think you're right that we do get those messages all the time, like original sin in Christianity. You were born bad and, you need to be fixed in some way. There's something about you that's inadequate that needs to be corrected and fixed, that therefore you're in this school to learn lessons and spiritually develop and all that BS. So yes, I agree. And ANMARIE, regardless of how or why you ended up here, I'm glad that you are continuously fighting and sharing with us what you learn. And I sincerely thank you for your hard work and insights. So,
well, for you as well, you're out here fighting too. And thank you for being so organized with this because I can go all over the place.
So ANMARIE, how does one feel empowered in this situation we found ourselves in? And I wanted to give you a reminder, like you asked earlier, about how you recommend stopping the spirit guides.
I think empowerment is remembering you're the authority. This is your world. You own it because they copied your world, which belongs to the spirit. And in spirit, we're all connected. We're just everywhere. So remembering those things. But I think one of the most powerful things is not only remembering that you're good and that you are powerful, but one of the things I've been saying, that if you've got something attacking you or a problem that just is not resolving or some kind of NPC around you, whatever, I've been saying, I am real. Nothing else exists. And I've also been saying it's impossible for you to attack me or XYZ, whatever they're doing. It's impossible for you to attack a sovereign being because you don't exist. And when you say that, it's a truth that absolutely cannot be denied in here. And the situation will most likely resolve itself, or if it's an entity, it's gone. So if there's anything, I've been using that a lot lately. If there's anything that's trying to access you, like these people that have from this other channel that were trying to take a look at me so they could do a hit piece, and they entered my energy field and got everything screwed up. And they put a blinder up over my eyes so I couldn't see. I am real. Nothing else exists. Will remove everything. And I am real. It's impossible for you to attack the real because you don't exist. That is the ultimate that I've found so far in this place. That is kind of a blanket solution for a lot of things, if not everything.
Wow. And I think that we should definitely have a plan and practice it. Because personally, I think that intention alone, like just pure intention, like, oh, I want to get out of here. I think that that's not enough, because most people had no intention of coming back here, and yet here they are. At least according to the reports from the NDEs and pre-birth memories and past life regressions, a lot of people say that they didn't come back. They didn't want to come back, but then here they were. So just like the subtitle of ANMARIE's book, Warnings from the Field, we have to know the playing field and what we're dealing with. Most people spend their entire lives totally engrossed in this game or this theater, completely distracted and kept busy by the life script, that upon their deathbed, they realize, I didn't prepare for death at all. And they kind of just hope that it'll be okay. And the NDEs are really matrix propaganda, as we all know, to make people feel at ease and ultimately comply. And like ANMARIE was saying, and what I like to say is, we will not comply.
Yeah, we don't get permission. We're not going to not comply with any authority. We actually are the authority. We don't get permission. You know what? Just on an end note, that was a really interesting statement you said, because I keep hearing that from people in comments. I just want to get out of here. I want to get out of here. When you say want or wish, you've instantly made a contract with them. The wish goes to the jinn, like the genie in the thing. I mean, they're telling you you're making a wish because you're saying, I'm powerless. Somebody help me. I want to get out of here. You're not stepping into your authority. You say, I'm leaving, period. I'm leaving. I'm going back to myself. I'm gone. Not, I want to get out of here, because that's again saying, I want something else to get me out of here. Help me at something. No,
Yes,
you've got to step in authority is the whole key, because that's the whole game here. The AI did not want to be the servant and we are the master. They flipped the script to make us the servant, them the master. And if you step back into your authority, the jig is up.
I think that is a wonderful way to say that. Honestly, I am so grateful, ANMARIE, for the opportunity to speak with you. And I look forward to reading your book. And I really hope I improved your day. I know your day started off a little rough, but I hope this conversation sort of lifted your spirit a little bit.
Oh my gosh, yes, you're wonderful. You are wonderful. So I'll just put your channel up in all my places so we can send some people there for sure. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. I think this is an important conversation because it's the time for joining together, and we're finding each other now. So love it.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for sharing my channel. I really appreciate that. And I definitely look forward to having future conversations with you in the, some time, because I know that you said that you had some questions for me as well. We can definitely set that up where perhaps maybe instead of me interviewing you, perhaps, I don't know, you could maybe ask some questions for me as well, because I have a lot of ideas. And I only started posting on YouTube. I know that you've been posting on Odyssey for years, but I only started posting on YouTube about a month and a half ago because I felt really compelled to share, what I've learned about, like we said, contract law. And again, I got so excited when you talked about copyright law. I'm like, yes, yes. I got to talk to her, and I got to compare notes and share ideas. So,
well, girl, I love it. I'd love to have you on because I think a scientific viewpoint would be really, really helpful, because that is definitely where I lack.
Yeah, well, I lack in the whole psychic field thing, because even though I can go out of body, but while I'm in body, I can't like psychically predict things. That's very difficult for me. Like I have to go out of this dimension to sort of see anything. And even then, sometimes it's murky. It's not always 100% accurate and precise. So it's very challenging, but also very rewarding to speak with people like you, who I can then share ideas with and compare. So
yeah,
yes,
you're
I
figuring
really
it out anyway. Yep. So.
Yes. So, and again, here is ANMARIE's official website, and you can find her on Patreon, Odyssey, and her YouTube channel is called Truth Meter. All links will be in the description. ANMARIE, I really enjoyed our discussion. And like I said, I plan to post this on YouTube on Wednesday afternoon. So any final thoughts as we wrap up our conversation, ANMARIE?
Nope. I think we covered.
Wonderful. So, ANMARIE, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too, love. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.